You know, for a handheld that went on to sell through an incredible 76 million units, the 3DS didn't have the greatest start to life.
Coming off the back of the massively successful DS, Nintendo launched the 3DS at an expensive price point, alongside some rather lackluster launch titles, and with impressive yet underutilized glasses-free 3D technology.
Watching on as Sony pretended their PlayStation Vita didn't exist anymore, Nintendo decided to adopt a different approach instead. They'd drop the price and provide major first-party support, all but ensuring that before too long, Nintendo's handheld market dominance was secured for another generation.
But what of those lackluster 3DS launch titles? Well, today I'll be playing through the European launch games and sort of reviewing them as I go. A quick shout out, of course, to AR Games, Face Raiders, Puzzle Swap, and Street Pass Quest, all of which came pre-installed on the 3DS, but none of which I could work out how to emulate. Are you ready? Then let's do this.
Mini John Cooper Works.
Never have I heard anyone more excited about Mini Coopers. I used to work near the factory where they're made, and that only served to make me more miserable. Asphalt 3D is about more than just looking at pavements in 3 dimensions. It's got a whole car game in it too. I know, mad. Selecting your vehicle of choice, you begin a career in which you can earn sponsors and level up to unlock parts for your car. Although due to emulation I was unable to appreciate it in all its 3D splendor, the game doesn't look half bad, even if I would have loved a third-person camera that wasn't so low behind the car. When coupled with the fact that other vehicles are often popping in too late for you to avoid, I found myself wiping out far too frequently.
So you made it to Aspen, where the rich and famous go to ski the Colorado slopes, and where you try not to plummet off the side of a mountain.
Oh yeah, thank you for that. Additionally, the physics can prove a bit mad, with cars regularly pulling off insane maneuvers in the air and getting stuck on other vehicles during police chases. It's a passable racer, but you can't say much more than that. 43% on Metacritic. LEGO Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars was the third LEGO Star Wars game, focusing not on the movies but instead upon the first 2 seasons of the Clone Wars TV show. As such, you'll be playing as numerous characters from this Star Wars time period, including Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker. Naturally, as a LEGO game, there's a whole load of characters to unlock, each with their own special skills. Yoda, for example, is small enough to fit through little gaps, just as certain clone troopers can blow up parts of the environment. And outside the character collection, there's also a ton of studs to accrue, golden bricks to locate, and mini kits to source. This LEGO game comes from a time before developer Traveller's Tales included voice acting, but the humour still shines through nonetheless. Admittedly, it doesn't look particularly visually arresting. It was hard to tell if you can safely drop off ledges due to the camera, and flight controls and dogfights are not good, but as far as portable LEGO games go, you could do worse. Like the PSP and DS versions. 67% according to Metacritic.
Dog. 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 Dog.
Not 1, not 2, but 3 Nintendogs and Cats variations were available at launch, and I couldn't proceed in any of them. You see, a real stumbling block of the emulator I used was the inconsistent microphone support, so when I needed to say my dog's name,
Dog.
it wouldn't listen.
Dog.
Even so, you all know what Nintendogs is, and I got just enough footage to show you the various breeds and a bit of fetch. You're welcome. Across the French Bulldog, Golden Retriever, and Toy Poodle versions, not much is different beyond offering alternative starting dogs, room decorations, and colours of items. Bet that didn't stop some people from buying all of them though. Lunatics. You begin by buying a dog. Adopt, don't shop. Before naming them and having a little play. They'll fetch a ball, they'll chase a balloon, they'll drink water and eat food. It really is riveting stuff. take the dog on training exercises, go on walks, discover you exist within some kind of Truman Show nightmare. Your life is a lie, you fluffy idiot. And apparently, even adopt cats. Nintendogs and cats truly does it all, except score more than 71% on Metacritic, which is precisely what it did. Another Nintendo console launch and another appearance from Pilotwings. For those of you unfamiliar with the series, Pilotwings is a cartoony flight sim that had previously graced the N64 and SNES as a means to showcase those systems' power. In this instance, the power on show is 3D effects, which neither you nor I can see. You may have encountered it in kiosks in your local game shop though, that's where I had a go. Starting by picking out your Mii as I did with Tiny Peter, the vehicles on offer are a plane, a rocket belt, and a hang glider, with each offering increasingly challenging tasks. Fly through hoops, pop balloons, land on platforms, earn bonus points for fuel consumption and time taken, and see your Mii crumple into a heap after every hang glider mission. It's all quite pretty and idyllic, until it isn't. The game might have taken place on the sus-sounding Woohoo Island, but the critics weren't so much saying woohoo as they were arguing over the game's merits. GameSpot said, Pilotwings Resort is fun while it lasts, but it fails to reach the same heights as its predecessors, with the Metacritic average landing on 71%. Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played a football game before. Here we can see Benzema knee Valdez in the face, forcing him to wear Mascherano like a child's backpack, certainly a red cardable offence. And I've also watched football. Even so, I'm going to give this everything I've got. Football fans unite, as Pro Evolution Soccer 2011 3D has something for every one of you. All of your favourite teams are here. North London, West Midlands Village, London FC, Merseyside Blue, and Manchester United. Okay, so at this point in Pro Evo's existence, the licenses weren't quite all there, so there's no Premier League, but the Champions League is intact. It's not a hugely handsome game either, but I could just about tell who the England players were meant to be. Get a load of lank Frampard, Ton Jerry, and Rain Wooney. Gameplay-wise, whoever made the decision about this default camera angle should be tried for war crimes, but thankfully you can change it relatively easily. It's not very responsive, sadly, with delayed reactions to inputs and spectacularly janky own goals that are absolutely not the fault of the player. There's also the commentary, which is horrible.
Well, at least he went for it. So unlucky not to score with that one. What an effort.
So insightful, thanks guys. You can change tactics on the fly with the touchscreen, which is a nice addition, but Pro Evolution Soccer 2011 3D falls far short of its home console counterparts. 73% on Metacritic. If I have to talk about Rayman in these videos again, I'm going to murder a toddler. Ubisoft seem dead set on re-releasing Rayman 1 and 2 as launch titles for everything going, and while I daren't assume they're doing so because it's easy, I am confident in suggesting they're doing so because it's not hard. Even so, here's Rayman 3D, a port of Rayman 2, but with 3D bits in it now. Blowbox is imprisoned on a pirate ship alongside a depowered Raymond man, but fortunately that big blue bugger is brought along a lovely silver loom, or lum, which is rather upsettingly stored in his throat. And it can restore Rayman's powers. They escape, and Rayman gets back on his platforming collectathon BS. Now, despite the abject disrespect I'm levelling at the floating one, Rayman 2 is actually a very good game, and scored highly when it first launched. At this point, however, the game was on its 8th platform, having already been a launch game for the original DS. I relinquish my reticence. This was definitely easy for Ubisoft. The DS release scored a 58% average, and the 3DS version upped that by a whopping 3 points at 61%. We now know, scientifically, how much 3D effects improve a game.
Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
Thank you, Nintendo. I genuinely thought we'd never get to hear that clip again, and yet here we are. Ridge Racer 3D is a racing game where you go very fast and spend lots of time drifting sideways. It's fun, and as a Ridge Racer title, the game of course opens with a bizarre cutscene that seems to focus more on ladies putting on boots than it does cars. A variety of modes are on offer, but I went for a single-player Grand Prix, customizing my car before taking to the track. As with every Ridge Racer game I've played, it takes a couple of laps to get used to the drifting, but it wasn't too long before I was sliding like a pro, slipstreaming to earn nitrous and zooming to victory. I do wish these games had a dedicated drift button, however, as sometimes you turn into a corner on blind faith that the drift will kick in, but you'll just hit the wall.
3, 2, 1, go!
What's going on? You can do better than this.
Give me a second, will you? While I was impressed by Ridge Racer 3D, reviews were middling, with the game receiving an average score of 75% on Metacritic. Set in the Warring States period of Japan, war has engulfed the land with multiple parties vying for power. Your character travels the land hoping to learn from these factions and their heroes to become a mighty warrior, him or herself. The game begins with a quiz to determine your origin before ominously suggesting your fate will be determined by your actions. Perhaps a great RPG experience awaits, weaving an intricate tale of intrigue and heroes? Psych! It's a hack and slash Muso. I mean, come on. It's developed by Omega Force and published by Tecmo Koei. What else was it reasonably going to be? There is so much talking at the start of this game. From cutscenes to dialogue boxes to more dialogue boxes and more cutscenes. I was dying to kill some grunts by the time the game actually let me play. And then, yep. This is it, really. You can change your equipment, unlock mounts, your friendship levels with other characters clearly plays a part, and you can even switch between characters on the battlefield, but you know how this works. We all do. You mash attack at lots of easy-peasy enemies in a big bland landscape until they're all dead. Rinse and repeat. 61% on Metacritic. Super Monkey Ball 3D tries to do a lot. Firstly, there is of course the classic Monkey Ball mode, where you roll monkeys down a hill in a giant ball, collecting bananas as you go. I picked Mimi the Monkey because she's named after the images your mum tags you in on Facebook. Harnessing the capabilities of the 3DS to control the action, you can either use the circle pad or tilt the handheld. Obviously, I couldn't experience the tilt functionality, but it still played as expected. Then there's Monkey Race mode, which is Mario Kart. It's Mario Kart. You use items and power-ups across several different tracks, and it's Mario Kart. The mode is rather unremarkable, but it's still a nice addition. Finally, there's Monkey Fight, and that is Smash Bros. Various sub-modes are available within it, but you're mainly leathering your opponent's simians and trying to hold the most bananas when the game ends. It's astonishing, quite frankly, that these three modes were all crammed into what would normally be a Japanese video game where you roll monkeys down a hill in a giant ball, but the clunky attempts at Mario Kart and Smash Bros failed to connect with critics, resulting in a 55% average, according to Metacritic. Who do you think you are? My mother? I refuse. I will never take a break as long as I live. Actually, you know what? How can you honestly sit there and... you just have to press A. A port of Super Street Fighter 4, this 3D edition is largely the same game, which is really quite extraordinary. A roster of 35 fighters have made the leap. Graphically, it's very nice, with Ultra moves looking especially cool, and while I'm absolutely hopeless at fighting games, the addition of the big special move buttons on the touchscreen allowed me to ensure my street fighting supremacy. There's even an option for something called Dynamic View, where you get more of an over-the-shoulder look at the action. It's a cool gimmick, but it leaves a bit to be desired on the 3DS, only serving to highlight the lack of detail in some of the stages, like these flat boys over here. Bonus modes include beating the ever-loving crap out of automobiles and destroying barrels within a time limit. It's a remarkably feature-complete port then, and that no doubt contributed to its 1.3 million sales and impressive 85% Metacritic average. Outside of their original PC versions, the Sims games have almost uniformly been a bit naff. You just can't get the same experience without powerful hardware and a keyboard and mouse. However, I was hugely charmed by The Sims 3 on 3DS. You naturally begin by designing your Sims, editing facial features by dragging the stylus around, and after creating a Ben in my image, I chose my 3 traits: sporty, mean-spirited, and no sense of humor. He has aspirations to become a sports legend and to eventually move out of his tiny home. The thing that immediately struck me about this 3DS port was just how useful the touchscreen became. While the camera of the top screen could be manipulated in whichever fashion you wished, the bottom displays a persistent bird's eye view of the house, allowing you to see what your sim is doing. Speaking of which, in our short time together, I bought Ben a TV, a sofa, a running machine, and a mirror so he could admire himself while running. The neighbors were briefly creepy. Ben was sad about his shower, so I bought him a new one, but I couldn't work out how to sell the old one, and into the garden it went. Ben then worked out, had a shower, did a wee, grabbed some leftover lunch, went to bed, and then it was time for his first day of professional toilet cleaning. clearly going well. Just 52% on Metacritic, but they're all wrong. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Shadow Wars is a turn-based tactics game. Think XCOM, and you're not a million miles off. The story goes that Russian ultranationalists are attempting to dethrone the sitting president in an upcoming election, and with an attack on some Kazakhstan oil pipelines, you and your team are sent in to protect them. Or something, you know, typical Tom Clancy stuff. As a turn-based title, you'll have a turn to move your units around the map and attack before your enemies have a turn to do the same. Your different units will have differing weapons and abilities, such as auto-return fire, with alternate weapons like EMP grenades doing more damage to certain targets. Dealing damage grants you a Microsoft PowerPoint. Just regular power points, and if you fill the bar, you do a significant power attack. Your team levels up at the end of each mission, and these missions are bookended by nice, stylized comic book cutscenes. It's worth bearing in mind, however, that if you're facing a number of foes, it can be quite a wait until it's your turn again. The addition of a fast-forward button would have been nice. The story was largely panned by critics, but most enjoyed the gameplay, with the Metacritic average settling on 77%. We'll remember you, Splinter Cell, even if Ubisoft tries to deny and piss on your existence at every turn. We close out this video with another entry courtesy of Ubisoft and their Tom Clancy series, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell 3D. A port of Chaos Theory, the third Splinter Cell title, developer Gameloft really did their best to cram as much into it as possible, with poor results. It's mad quite how much has made it in, really. The face buttons act as a second stick for the camera. You can shoot out lights, cling to walls, climb, use a variety of weaponry, night vision's in there, you pick locks, break locks, use an optic cable under the door, open the door, bash the door. It's honestly all quite overwhelming, and with almost all of it mapped to the touchscreen, being able to react to imminent danger is all but impossible. Beyond that, it doesn't look incredible, with this cutscene news host looking like he's hiding a zombie bite in a Resident Evil game, and it controls clunkily too. I shot this guy in the head and he just sort of shrugged it off. Clearly, a massive streamlining of the experience was needed, and the critics agreed, with a Metacritic average of just 53%. Sorry, Mr. Fisher. And that 53% brings the average score of the 3DS launch games to 65%.
And there we have it, every Nintendo 3DS launch title sort of reviewed in 2022. Were there any among them that were your favourites? Let me know in the comments below. Why not follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with future videos in this series, and like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel as well. Please, I would really appreciate it. You all look after yourselves now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!